We would see Shawn at scenes of usually violent crimes.
So what made Shawn's friends so concerned that he hadn't made lunch?
Just picking up and disappearing was not like him. Maybe it was something associated with his work as a reporter. Like maybe he had run afoul of someone in a story that he was working on.
He had gotten into some kind of a major fight,
which led to him being punched in the face. There was always the possibility that they might be responsible for his disappearance. His game of choice was Magic the Gathering. Apparently he had a very large collection worth well over $100,000.
So did you believe that the collection could have had something to do with his disappearance?
Obviously, that was a possibility.
And what did they discover in his backyard?
It wasn't a dog, it was a human being buried within a tub. I don't know where Shawn would have gone to next with his career in journalism. You know, he may have had big ambitions and all that was cut short.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Pensacola, Florida. This popular tourist destination became the backdrop for a disturbing mystery when 33-year-old Shawn vanished into thin air. As detectives followed the mysterious trail of his last known steps, it would leave his loved ones devastated when the awful truth was revealed. It was a warm fall morning when a concerned father called police and said his 33-year-old son, Shawn was missing. He explained one of Shawn's close friends became worried when Shawn failed to show up for lunch.
She had arranged to have lunch with him. When she went to go pick him up, he wasn't there.
So what made Shawn's friends so concerned that he hadn't made lunch?
The house was empty. This was totally outside the norm for Shawn, who was responsible. He was a local reporter, worked for the newspaper, but he was usually involved in these other people's lives, and him just picking up and disappearing was not like him. It was out of his character. He was a longtime Pensacola resident, that in the next town over, Gulf Breeze. So he was from the area, he had family in the area, and for him just to pack up and move was very unusual. So that was the thing that really set off the alarms, is that the house is empty. He hadn't indicated to his family and friends as to where he was going.
Shawn was known as a hardworking and tenacious reporter for the Pensacola News-Journal.
Yeah, we would see Shawn at scenes of usually violent crimes or homicide cases where the media had an interest in covering, what had happened in that particular incident, whether it be a murder or something serious like that. And sometimes he would be kind of the crime reporter that would be sent to the scene.
He worked the crime beat, which is how we met him. I think the first time that I had a conversation with Shawn was actually about 2.5 years before, at another homicide case where he showed up to do some initial reporting, and he was kind of like a pushy sort of report, like he was trying to get past the crime scene tape. He was asking for statements from detectives and officers as they were leaving the scene, and he was kind of irritating. So that was our experience with him, was in him trying to get the scoop on stories and showing up at murder scenes and hot crime scenes to try and find out information for his writing.
Detectives wondered if his work covering homicides had somehow led to his disappearance.
Maybe it was something associated with his work as a reporter. Like maybe he had run afoul of someone in a story that he was working on.
But interviews with Shawn's coworkers convinced them the lead was a dead end.
There was no evidence we could develop based upon some sort of disgruntled focus of a story. There was nothing that came to light in regards to that.
Detectives quickly learned that shortly before his disappearance, Shawn had been to the emergency room.
He had gone out to the beach here locally in Pensacola and had gotten into some kind of a major fight and gotten beaten up.
And the story that I got in regards to that fight was he had been out drinking at the beach with some friends. They had an argument, some things were said. Apparently Shawn may have said some things that upset some of the friends that he was with, which led to him being punched in the face. He had his jaw broken, so his jaw was wired shut. He had a medical plate that was repairing the jaw, and so he was having problems with the pain medication and various things in his life.
After the attack, Shawn had decided to press charges.
He had prosecuted the suspects. There had been arrests.
Investigators theorized his assailants had attacked him again, and an explosive argument had turned deadly.
There was always the possibility that it was extended and that something else had happened from that group of people, and they might be responsible for his disappearance.
Law enforcement took a close look at the subjects involved.
We didn't find any recent contact between him nor any of the persons involved in the fight. No threads were developed that led from his disappearance to anything that happened after that fight.
The clues left behind at his home showed he had been gone for at least 2 weeks.
Mail was piling up in the mailbox.
The lawn is looking out of control.
It was very unusual. Shawn's car was no longer there at the house.
A be on the lookout was issued, and his car was quickly located in the Pensacola Airport parking lot, which put another possibility back on the table.
This was just a missing persons case. We can pack up and leave as another possibility. So there was nothing that was keeping him from that, but it was the behaviors that had led up to his disappearance that were unusual. Here's Shawn that has this excessive collection of cards that are very valuable. I am now very concerned about what may have happened with Shawn.
"33-year-old Shawn Dugal was nowhere to be found, and his mysterious disappearance baffled investigators.
There was a couple different things that could have happened. One is that he left and just moved away and no one knew where he had gone. The other possibility is worst case where there's foul play and he's now deceased.
Law enforcement discovered when Shawn wasn't at work, he was with his friends at the local comic store.
There was a comic book shop that he did a lot of gaming at. His game of choice was Magic the Gathering. Apparently he had a very large collection. And so a lot of his friendships and interactions took place at this local comic shop.
Red flags were raised when police discovered Shawn owned an incredibly valuable card collection.
So in talking to a few of his friends, his ex-girlfriend who worked at the comic book shop, they all explained that Shawn had an extensive Magic the Gathering collection worth well over $100,000. He had some very rare cards, and he invested a lot of time and energy into this game, a lot of money into this game.
So did anybody know that he owned such a valuable collection?
Well, it was pretty shocking that he had a collection that was worth that much.
So did you believe that the collection could have had something to do with his disappearance?
I would say that obviously that was a possibility, that because of the assets that he had and the value of his collection, that could have been a target.
While forensic examiners combed through Shawn's home for any evidence of foul play, detectives located a neighbor who gave them troubling information.
A neighbor had indicated that a couple of his friends had a U-Haul at the house, and they were loading Shawn's belongings into a U-Haul.
I mean, as I remember it, they were loading just normal house stuff, possessions, small furniture items, things like that. It's that kind of stuff you'd expect to see being loaded if you're moving.
The neighbor said this had happened just days before Shawn was reported missing, which brought up more questions than answers.
Our focus initially was trying to discover who would have rented the U-Haul, where the U-Haul would have ended up, and who these two guys were and what their story was about where Shawn would have gone.
Detectives focused their efforts on finding that U-Haul truck.
I went to the local U-Haul dealership and tried to find out if Shawn had rented a U-Haul truck. The person at the counter was actually not very cooperative at all. Seemed irritated with us asking and advised us that we would have to get a subpoena, which wasn't necessarily unusual. So I went back to the police station and prepared a subpoena. The issue with that was that sometimes getting the results from a subpoena can take weeks. So we would have preferred to have gotten that information that day. it was just going to take some time. So we did a subpoena, issued it to U-Haul, and what we were trying to capture was any U-Haul rentals in Shawn's name. So we entered the subpoena request with a window of time. It was about a month's window, which would have covered the day of disappearance and the date that the U-Haul was seen until present. We knew that if we had information about this U-Haul, we can isolate the actual rental. We could actually see what was returned, which would tell us possibly where Shawn may have gone.
The U-Haul records and surveillance video provided police with a lead.
It was a 14-foot truck that was rented on or about the day that it was seen at the house, and it was returned to the same location in Pensacola.
So who was it that rented the U-Haul truck?
It was rented by Will Cormier.
Detectives learned 31-year-old Will Cormier had a twin brother named Chris, and they lived in Winder, Georgia, over 300 miles away from Pensacola. The twins had been close friends with Shawn and had met because of their shared love of the card game Magic: The Gathering.
Shawn had been friends with the brothers for several years. The Cormiers had deep associations in Pensacola. Their father had lived there, so at some point they kind of grown up here. Their bonding over this game is what led to their friendship.
The brothers would often visit Shawn at his home.
When they would come back to Pensacola, they would quite often stay with Shawn.
Investigators dialed the number on Will Cormier's U-Haul rental agreement.
The phone was disconnected, so that didn't work.
But records also showed Will Cormier had rented another U-Haul a week later, as well as a tow dolly, which was paid for by his father.
And it had a phone number for Will's father, and it used Will's father's credit card, Bill Cormier. So now we are armed with a phone number that potentially works.
Detectives immediately called Bill Cormier, who lived in Winder, Georgia.
So when I spoke with Bill, I indicated that I was looking for his twin sons, Will and Chris. He told me that he hadn't seen them in over 5 months, and they weren't there. And so I explained that I was looking for a friend of theirs named Shawn. He indicated to me then that Shawn wasn't with them.
But the next call law enforcement would get would break the case wide open.
There was what he called the smell of death.
The father, I think he kind of put two and two together, ended up calling back and telling Sergeant Harnett that, he was concerned that maybe that wasn't really a dog that was buried.
Detectives searching for 33-year-old Shawn Dugas believe Will and Chris Cormier had something to do with his disappearance. It was then forensic examiners notified police they'd found evidence of foul play inside Shawn's home.
Well, we actually ended up finding blood.
Crime scene technicians had found droplets of cleaned up blood all over Shawn Dugas' home. Moments later, the father of the Cormier twins, Bill Cormier, called police, and what he revealed was a bombshell. He said he had lied to them when he claimed he didn't know anything about his son's whereabouts. In fact, the week before, the twins had pulled into his driveway in a U-Haul, and their explanation for why they were there was strange and incredibly disturbing.
His sons had arrived at the house with this U-Haul filled with these belongings, and they explained that they belonged to a friend of his, Shawn, and that they were helping him move, and Shawn had a dog, and the dog had died, and so they were going to bury this dog in the backyard.
And there was more.
When they arrived at his house in Georgia, this is weeks after Shawn has disappeared. So there was what he called the smell of death coming from this U-Haul.
He was concerned that maybe that wasn't really a dog that was buried.
Law enforcement immediately raced to Bill Cormier's backyard. And what did they discover in his backyard?
It wasn't a dog, it was a human being buried within a tub, a large plastic storage tub, and then a large number of different types of air fresheners.
Dental records proved what investigators already knew. The victim was Shawn Dugas. The medical examiner told a grim story of his last moments alive.
There was numerous marks on the skull, over a dozen strikes that we found, and there was parts of the skull that were actually caved in using a hammer. So we knew from the edges of the wound on the skull, that a hammer was very likely the weapon that was used.
As detectives fanned out to bring the Cormier brothers into custody, they searched for more evidence to build a case against them.
We have a Walmart store that was here in Pensacola. It's not far from where Shawn Dugas lived at the time that he was murdered. Sure enough, they had a tub there that was exactly the type that Shawn's body was found in.
Detectives pulled security footage of the last time the container had been purchased.
It's clearly William Cormier that's buying the tub. You see him pull one off the shelf, lay it on the ground, and he even steps back and kind of looks at it like he wanted to see just how large it was. He's almost sizing it up. Is this going to fit Shawn Dugas' body? And then he eventually decides it will, and he buys it. And he buys not only that, but he buys a tarp, and he buys a whole bunch of air fresheners.
Armed with the evidence against them, the brothers were brought into separate interrogation rooms. After hours of questioning, Chris Cormier agreed to talk. So what did he tell you that happened on the night of Shawn's murder?
He hears his brother, Will, and Shawn kind of arguing in the next room. And then he hears Shawn yell, "You cut me." He sees Will strike Shawn in the back of the head with the hammer as hard as he could, and Shawn collapses and dies in the garage.
He said Will had committed the crime so he could steal Shawn's valuable collection of magic cards. Did you find any evidence they had sold the cards after Shawn's murder?
We determined that they had sold somewhere in the neighborhood of about $30,000 worth of cards.
The search to find the missing reporter who had covered so many of the detectives' other heartbreaking cases was now over.
This was probably the first homicide case that I had where I actually knew the victim. There was a matter of relief and then shock around the fact that I knew this guy.
Shawn Dugas was a true innocent victim. He didn't do anything to deserve what happened to him. He was young. He had a career going. I don't know where Shawn would have gone to next with his career in journalism, and he may have had big ambitions, and all that was cut short.
After less than 2 hours of deliberation, a jury found Will Cormier guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. His twin brother Chris pled no contest to charges of helping his brother move Shawn Dugas' body. He was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. And now it is time for today's Safety Spotlight. While no safety measures are foolproof, experts recommend you limit who you discuss your finances or valuables with, as it may make you a target for criminals. To protect high-value items, secure them in a home safe or safety deposit box to prevent robbers' access to them. And if you must keep these items in your home, make sure your residence is outfitted with a security alarm and cameras to deter thieves. And finally, if you are confronted by a robber, safety experts generally advise you to give them what they want to avoid a struggle that could result in violence or death. Your life and your safety are your greatest assets. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.
Taylor had worked in law enforcement. He had a good reputation, was a nice person, didn't have really any enemies.
What did Taylor have going on in her life at the time that she went missing?
Had already gone through a divorce with her ex-husband, Jeff. She was moving in with her girlfriend, Cassandra Waller. Cassandra started receiving texts back from Taylor's phone that she needed some time to think. We're talking a substantial amount of money, nearly $100,000. Here we get a call back from the team lead out there, advised they did in fact find human remains.
We know we have one lie based on the cell phone records. Now we have a motive for something if Taylor has indeed been harmed.
Early on in the relationship, Taylor had stepped out on Cassandra with someone else.
Immediately upon depositing the money, it was spent within 24 hours.
We had no body, and moving forward with a no-body homicide is a difficult case to prove.
I believe she's out at the farm, somewhere out there. We just needed to find her.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Pensacola, Florida, where the disappearance of a private investigator raised a lot of questions. As detectives searched for those answers, they uncovered a truth so twisted it made them wonder how anyone could be so depraved. It was Sunday, September the 10th, when a woman named Cassandra Waller reached out to the Pensacola Police Department. She wanted to report her girlfriend, Taylor Wright, as missing. What did Taylor have going on in her life at the time that she went missing?
She was moving in with her girlfriend, Cassandra Waller. Had already gone through a divorce with her ex-husband, Jeff, and was still had some civil case going over finances.
The case had an upcoming court date, and Taylor was extremely stressed about it. To help lift the cloud of anxiety, she made plans with her best friend on Friday.
Taylor was scheduled to go hang out with her friend Ashley.
Cassandra said that Ashley came over around lunchtime, and the two left shortly after. She tried to check in with Taylor a few hours later.
She was calling to check up, see how everything was going, and Taylor was not answering the phone, wasn't responding to text messages.
And she didn't get a response from Taylor, so she started reaching out to Ashley and called Ashley.
And what did Ashley tell her?
Ashley answered and told Cassandra that Taylor was riding a horse at the time and was unavailable to speak.
Cassandra said she felt better knowing Taylor was having fun. But by 7 p.m., when she still hadn't heard from her, she reached out to Ashley again to see where they were. This time, Ashley seemed worried and said Taylor had left her house hours earlier, and then she dropped a bombshell.
So Ashley went on to explain that Taylor was acting different and had an extra phone with her that she had not previously seen. She had a duffel bag with her.
Cassandra said she didn't understand what was going on until an hour later when she finally heard from Taylor.
Cassandra started receiving texts back from Taylor's phone that she needed some time to think.
Even though she couldn't understand why Taylor would want time away from her, Cassandra knew her girlfriend's mind wasn't in the best place and remembered a conversation from a few months earlier.
Taylor had made mention, based on her law enforcement experience and private investigation work, that if she wanted to disappear, that no one could find her.
Cassandra said she wanted to tread lightly and give Taylor the space she was asking for.
But after days continued to pass, she grew more concerned.
By Sunday, when no one in Taylor's circle had seen or heard from her, Cassandra called the police for help. Taylor Wright was officially declared a missing person.
We're talking a substantial amount of money, nearly $100,000. Jeff felt he was entitled to a portion of. Taylor felt she was entitled to all.
Detectives investigating the disappearance of 33-year-old Taylor Wright learned as much as they could about her.
So Taylor had previously worked in law enforcement. She had a good reputation, was a nice person, didn't have really any enemies.
After going through a messy divorce and losing custody of her son, Taylor met Cassandra Waller. They had been dating 6 months, but things had heated up quickly.
The two of them had just moved in together, and as far as Cassandra knew, everything was fine and there was no issues between her and Taylor.
Investigators went to the last person who saw Taylor that day, her best friend, Ashley. The two were close, bonding over their past careers in law enforcement.
Taylor Wright was a law enforcement officer up in Jacksonville, and Ashley MacArthur had worked with the Escambia County Sheriff's Department as a crime scene investigator.
Detectives asked Ashley to walk them through that day. She said she was trying to take Taylor's mind off everything, so they went horseback riding.
They had went to Ashley's family farm over in Milton, Florida, which it's a good drive, probably about 45 minutes to the east of where they actually were.
Ashley said after that, they drove back to her house. Taylor told her she wanted to go out because she still needed something to calm her nerves.
She just said that she wanted to go have a beer and that she was going to get an Uber to take her to go have a beer. And I said, well, I can just drop you back off at your car. And she's like, well, I don't want to drive.
Ashley then revealed why Taylor had been stressed and upset that day. The upcoming court hearing was about money that Taylor had taken out of a joint bank account during her divorce. It all stemmed from a car accident Taylor had been in years before she got married. She got a large cash settlement from it and felt like the money belonged to her, so she withdrew it from the account and tried to hide it with friends.
And how did the conversation come up with her leaving the money at your house?
She just asked me if I would keep it.
And how did that go? Yeah, okay, or?
I mean, she was always there, so I mean, I really didn't mind it.
Ashley told detectives she knew keeping a large amount of cash at her home wasn't ideal, but it seemed like the best option.
Taylor wanted to get a safety deposit box initially, but she didn't want her name or anything to be on anything that Jeff could find.
Sure.
So I was like, we'll just keep it and give it to you or whatever.
Jeff filed a lawsuit, and a judge ordered her to present the money in court. Ashley said Taylor was angry and upset. She blamed Jeff for everything that happened in her marriage and divorce, especially losing custody of their son.
The way that she put everything to me was like she was just trying to get her life together, to get her kid, to get back on her feet, and that Jeff had done so much, to her to take away all of this money that she had and everything else.
Ashley said the last time she saw Taylor put the cash in a duffel bag and walked out the door. Ashley said she didn't know where Taylor was headed. Investigators reached out to Taylor's ex-husband, Jeff Wright, who was living in North Carolina.
Detective Gigliotti spoke to Jeff Wright, and he had said, hey, I hadn't seen her, hadn't heard from her.
Not only did Jeff say he hadn't spoken with Taylor, he said their son hadn't heard from her either, which was odd.
It was common for Taylor to speak to her child just about nightly or every other day, and there had been no contact with Taylor and her child.
Jeff admitted that he was angry with Taylor over the large amount of money she had taken from their account.
We're talking a substantial amount of money, nearly $100,000 that was withdrawn that Jeff felt he was entitled to a portion of. Taylor felt she was entitled to all. And so there was some level of contentious divorce or separation.
But he said he would never harm Taylor since she was the mother of his child. Jeff told police he was nowhere near Pensacola on September the 8th. He was in the military and working in North Carolina.
It was easy to rule Jeff out. He was active duty at the time, so called there, talked to his command, and they tell us that he was on base at the time, that she went missing.
Investigators wondered if Taylor would eventually show up at his home and told him to be on the lookout. The missing persons case seemed to stall until a phone call came in that changed the course of the investigation.
We know we have one lie based on the cell phone records.
It was uncovered that early on in the relationship, Taylor had stepped out on Cassandra with someone else.
A week into the investigation, Taylor's best friend, Ashley MacArthur, called police to say she wanted to tell them something she hadn't originally shared. It was about Taylor's relationship with Cassandra.
It was uncovered that early on in the relationship that Taylor had stepped out on Cassandra with someone else.
Detectives wondered if the affair with the other woman had something to do with Taylor's disappearance. They turned their attention back to Cassandra Waller. She was adamant she had nothing to hide and agreed to let detectives search her home. And when you searched her home, what did you find?
We recovered a $17,000, I believe, uncashed cashier's check, and several other odd items. I believe we found like a birth certificate or a social security card, just things that you would, if you were to disappear, you might take with you.
Although there was no evidence of a crime, at this point, Cassandra seemed convinced that a girlfriend was never coming home.
But Taylor has never not called me back when I'm And I was so thinking, like, all these people are like, how do we know who even Taylor is?
Cassandra's alibi was solid, and she was ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing. A few weeks later, Taylor's cell phone records came back. When detectives checked her activity on September the 8th, they were shocked.
We kept getting these tower hits up in Beulah Cantonment area, which is kind of northwest Escambia County.
The area was more than 30 minutes away from Milton, Florida, where Ashley MacArthur had said she and Taylor were riding horses that day. It was a major red flag.
We know we have one lie based on the cell phone records.
The new location turned out to be another property owned by Ashley's family. Investigators didn't know why she would lie, but now that she did, they wondered what else she had lied about. Detectives tried to retrace her steps in the days after Taylor's disappearance and noticed her phone kept pinging at that family farm.
It's making us think, okay, she keeps going out here. Why does she keep going out here? What's the deal?
And there was much more that investigators uncovered. Ashley's bank records showed that the money Taylor had given her had not been kept in cash at her home after all. There was a cashier's check in Taylor's name for $34,000 that Ashley had deposited in her own bank account.
Immediately upon depositing the money, it was basically spent within 24 hours. It was transferred to various other accounts that were at the bank, whether it be Ashley's personal account, Ashley's business account. They paid like credit cards with it.
It was all starting to add up. Taylor had the upcoming court case and needed her money back, but it was gone. The evidence was beginning to point to one sad conclusion.
I'm convinced that she's dead, and I believe Detective Gigliotti believed that as well.
Detectives got a search warrant for the family property on Britt Road and brought Ashley in for more questioning.
Our thought process was, okay, we need to keep her occupied as long as we possibly can. This place is massive. Obviously, our hope is to find Taylor. I believe she's out of the farm, somewhere out there. We just needed to find her.
About an hour and a half into the interview, detectives confronted Ashley with the cell tower maps and the fact that she had lied about her location that day.
What are y'all doing out here at this farm? You know y'all were there.
Ashley gave them a story about picking up something Taylor had stored there. Detectives weren't buying it and turned up the heat.
So you're the only one that was with her on this day at this farm that you did not disclose to us?
I didn't do anything to
You say
her.
this, if she's at that farm, we're gonna find her because we're executing a search warrant out there right now.
That's fine, but she's not going to be there.
Then where's she at?
I don't know where she
Where's
is.
her body at?
I don't know where she is.
She's dead though. You
I
know
don't
that?
believe that.
So she crosses her legs, puts her hands underneath her thighs, crossing her arms, basically trying to do whatever she can to distance herself from me to where she probably feels safe again.
Don't let us tell your story. Because this is gonna tell us what happened. Don't let us tell something that may not be true. Tell us what happened.
I think at this point I need an attorney because it seems to be that y'all think that I did something to her.
Detectives had no choice but to end the interview, and since the search team hadn't found anything, they also had to let Ashley MacArthur walk out the door a free woman.
We had no body, and moving forward with a no body homicide is a difficult case to prove. So we released her, and we made sure that we had a surveillance team available to watch her residence in the event that she would try to flee.
Detectives called the field team to let them know what had happened. So what did you say to the supervisor on the phone?
Please, y'all be thorough. She's got history as a crime scene tech. She's had weeks to cover up this crime if one was committed.
While Detective Gigliotti is talking to him, someone in the background says, "Hey, I think we have something."
Seconds felt like hours. We get a call back from the team lead out there and advised they did in fact find human remains.
Pensacola detectives sat by the phone waiting to find out what was found at Ashley MacArthur's family farm.
Seconds felt like hours. A few minutes later, we get a call back from the team lead out there and advised they did in fact find human remains.
The body had been hidden under a layer of concrete, soil, and tree limbs. Also found inside the shallow grave was Taylor Wright's signature bullet necklace.
I got chills. I got chill bumps. Like, okay, we were right. We followed evidence like we were taught to do, and it led us right to where we needed to be.
The medical examiner confirmed it was Taylor and that she had died from a gunshot wound to the head. Police arrested Ashley MacArthur outside her home and brought her back to the station.
And I went in and notified her that she was being charged with first-degree premeditated murder of her best friend. And she looked at me with no emotion and responded that she didn't do anything.
Investigators believe that MacArthur lured Taylor to her family farm and then shot her in the back of the head.
When Taylor came back to get the money, it was gone. It was long gone, long spent. I mean, Ashley knew she was on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars, and she knew she spent it. So we believe that Taylor threatened her with criminal action, and so she felt no other option but to kill her.
2 years after the murder of Taylor Wright, Ashley MacArthur went to trial and was found guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in a Florida state prison. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. All too often, money and greed are motives for murder. To help reduce your chances of meeting with foul play, safety experts recommend you secure your money wisely, using a bank account, a safety deposit box, or a credit union. Avoid keeping large quantities of money in your home or giving it to friends or family for safekeeping. And finally, if you're in the process of a divorce and concerned about how to protect your money and assets, consult with a finance protection attorney who can provide you with solutions and guidance. And most of all, use common sense when protecting your personal property. It could save you money, aggravation, and most importantly, it could save your life. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.